What's good, everybody? It's your boy Champagne Chico, and today we're going to be having a mock draft. It is draft week. The rumors keep stirring around right now, and I really can't help myself because I've already been in tune with what's going on in the draft and all the possibilities that there are in this draft. But before we get into the video, I'm going to have to ask you to go down there and like and subscribe for me. I'm planning to have mock drafts throughout this whole week. I also plan to have my rebuild up later on. So this week is going to be a lot of content, but I'm excited for the mock draft. If you want to see more mock drafts, leave a like down below and let me know down in the comments how many rounds you want me to do. I've kind of just been planning out that I was just going to add more rounds each day. But of course, let me know and I will get it out as soon as possible. Just to be clear, after the Aaron Rodgers trade, I still think both teams are going to be picking the same prospects that I already picked for them. Not much of a difference in terms of those first round picks. So take that as you will, but I'll let you get into the mock draft. And with the Panthers now on the clock, the very clear QB1 in this draft, as far as my opinion, Bryce Young. The only thing that most have against him is his height and his size. I think if he adds a little muscle, he'll be fine. But he has all the things that you can't really teach a quarterback. Has always been good at Alabama. I think he will be great either way. And now the Texans are on the clock. And the Texans are a team that I don't think wants to settle for a low ceiling in CJ Stroud. It's not super low, but it's not Bryce Young type of level ceiling. And that's kind of where all the rest of the QBs are at. And you can get somebody like Will Anderson at this position. I don't think they're going to necessarily trade out of it unless they get an insane package like the Bears did for the first overall pick. I think Will Anderson is going to be going to the Texans. They need some help on the edge and on the defensive line in general. The Cardinals are now on the clock. A possible trade down candidate. I don't think I'll be making that trade right now, since I do think that they might take a chance on somebody like Tyree Wilson. Insane size, insane length, very, very good potential at the edge position, and they need defensive line in general. And I think they do take them at the third overall pick. And here is where I think that CJ Stroud will be taken. He's already fallen here. The Colts are in desperate need of a QB since they've had basically a carousel of retired QBs. Matt Ryan, Phillip Rivers. I don't think they're going to be trying to go after Lamar Jackson with that whole situation he has going on, because if they are able to sign him, they would have to give up 2 first-round picks. Think they try to build for the future. Hope that CJ Stroud doesn't have as low of a ceiling as most scouts have been saying. And he's going to go to Indianapolis. And now the Seahawks are on the clock. They need defensive line very badly. Very badly. And Jalen Carter, the only thing that has really been said bad about him is supposed character issues. I think with the mentorship on the Seahawks, he'll do just fine. He'll do just fine. Bigger picture type of team. I do have Jalen Carter going to the Seahawks, though. Adding to a younger defense as of right now. They did just sign Bobby Wagner. I think he's just there for mentorship mainly. But now the Lions are on the clock. As much as Devin Witherspoon has been seen as somebody possibly going at this position to the Lions, I think the Lions like Christian Gonzalez a little more. He's been better a little longer. Devin Witherspoon hasn't been great for very long. Was really this recent tape that he had, and he also has an issue with penalties. Christian Gonzalez has the length. I think if they give him enough motivation, he can definitely be one of the top cornerbacks. Yeah, I have Christian Gonzalez going to Detroit, team that needs a cornerback after trading Jeff Okudah. As much as he wasn't that good, he was solid enough. And now the Raiders are here on the clock. Defensive back, defensive interior, O-line, quarterback is who I think they're going to go with. With Will Levis still on the board, somebody that you don't have to push into starting immediately, somebody who can develop and isn't such a hit or miss like Anthony Richardson is at the moment in terms of being a project QB. I think Will Levis goes to the Raiders. prepares them for the future, but they also have Jimmy Garoppolo right now to handle it. And if Jimmy Garoppolo goes down, Will Levis can fill that in very well. And now the Falcons are on the clock. Now the Texans are looking at the draft and seeing that the Titans are above them. And the Titans could possibly take somebody like Anthony Richardson, who has a lot of upside, even though that's kind of the situation they were with Malik Willis. But they got him pretty late, and he wasn't that great. I think the Falcons are going to be looking for an edge either way, and I see them trading it to the Houston Texans for the 12th overall pick, possibly a first-round pick next year. Not going to get into the specifics of that at the moment, but I do think the Texans are going to attempt to trade for the 8th pick to jump the Titans and get their QB of the future in Anthony Richardson. They need somebody that's going to develop on the offensive side. They're not in too much of a rush to be a Super Bowl team. They have Will Anderson on the defensive side, and now Anthony Richardson could possibly be a Cam Newton type player if developed correctly. And with a new head coach, it could be possible. I think it's between Peter Skoronski and Paris Johnson. As much as Peter Skoronski has been seen as somebody that is going to the Bears regardless, he's a little undersized for the tackle position, and the Bears love their big tackles, and I think Paris Johnson will fit into the Bears scheme very well. And I do have him going to Chicago, and now the Eagles are on the clock. Somebody who has been rumored to have Bijan at the 10th overall pick. I wouldn't go that far. I think he could possibly keep falling to the bottom of the first round. And I have the Eagles taking O-line, but it's Peter Skoronski. Even though they have the tackles right now, they could just move him to guard for the time being, as they did lose a guard in free agency. Just fit him right in. Great pass blocker, would be just fine on the Eagles. And now the Titans are on the clock, needing a wide receiver or O-line. If a quarterback did fall to them, they probably would have taken it. Even though they have Ryan Tannehill, they are trying to move on from him since he is 35 years old. But they're going to add to their wide receiver core. They could possibly be bad again this year and get a top pick next year. Caleb Williams is at the top of that. Treylon Burks has been great for them already. I think they keep trying to add to it, and Jackson Smith and Jigba is who I have going to the Tennessee Titans. And now the Falcons are back on the clock. I think they take an edge here between Nolan Smith and Lucas Van Ness. I think they go upside and they take Nolan Smith at this position. As powerful as Lucas Van Ness is, I don't quite think he's going to go to the Falcons. And Nolan Smith will be pretty good along the rest of that defense in Atlanta. I think the Jets go tackle here and go with Broderick Jones. As much as he hasn't been the tackle that they thought that he was going to be going into college, he was still pretty solid, and I think he'll be great on the Jets. Broderick Jones taken off the board, and now the Patriots on the clock. They have different options for what they need. Darnell Wright, Lucas Van Ness is still here. Even though Darnell Wright and Lucas Van Ness are still on the board, Bill Belichick loves his cornerbacks. Bill Belichick loves his defensive prospects. And Devin Witherspoon is still on the board at the 14th pick. I don't see him falling much further. The only issue that he has is penalties. But everything else could fit very well for the Patriots since they do run a lot of man. I do think the Packers are going to take a tight end. Lucas Van Ness is going to continue to fall. It's between Dalton Kincaid and Michael Mayer, but I think the Packers take the safe option in Michael Mayer. Just overall very reliable, very safe in terms of having a tight end for the future and not having to worry about that position for a while. He could be a top tight end, but I don't really see it happening. But I do think that they're going to be taking him at that position, as much as he has been projected to go down here to the Bengals and these teams that might need a tight end or look to draft a tight end. He's going to be going to the Green Bay Packers, and the Washington Commanders are now on the clock, and I have them taking a cornerback. And here is where I think Deonte Banks is going to go. He's a very versatile cornerback. I think he just needs to work on his technique. And Joey Porter is also good. I think they just picked their poison in terms of which one. They're both very solid cornerbacks that they can be taking at this position. As much as they need linebacker and offensive line right now, I think they worry about that in the later picks because guard is a pretty good position in this draft. Not the deepest. Osiris Torrance is there, but I don't think they go that far. And if they do in the draft, then I guess good for them. But Deonte Banks is going to be going to the Washington Commanders. And then the Steelers, I just see them going with whatever cornerback falls to them at this point. Unless all these top 4 cornerbacks are off the board, I can't see them going any other position here. Joey Porter Jr. going to the Steelers. Needs to be a little less touchy, but I think the Steelers defense could definitely use his help, and he could use their help too. The Lions are now on the clock, needing wide receiver, tight end, or defensive interior. We already drafted Christian Gonzalez for them, so cornerback is not a position that we're worried about. Once again, Lucas Van Ness is probably not going to be going here just because they have Aiden Hutchinson. They have some good defensive ends. I don't think they would move him to defensive interior. And this is where I see Kalijah Cansey going. As much as he's more of a high upside, not really sure how solid he's actually going to be. Aaron Donald is somebody that he's been compared to. Don't know about all that. But putting him alongside Aiden Hutchinson would be a very good situation for him and that Detroit Lions defense. And here are the Bucs: QB, tight end, O-line, defensive interior, and safety. I think they're going to be going with a tackle in Darnell Wright, trying to invest for the future like they did before already in terms of their offensive line. They got Tristan Wirfs on one side. I think Darnell Wright can be great on the other side of him and go ahead and add to that Bucs O-line like they need to. And they'll worry about the QB maybe in a future draft. They have Baker Mayfield right now, so I don't think they're too serious about this season. Mike Evans possibly on the move, but never know. This is where I think Lucas Van Ness is most likely going to go with how it's fallen. Not a lot of these teams that I've already passed need a defense. The Green Bay Packers, or defensive line, the Green Bay Packers needed a little more offense than defense. Patriots love their cornerbacks. And then everybody else got the players that they needed. I do think the Seahawks take Lucas Van Ness if he falls to this position, a very powerful defensive lineman, edge rusher. I think they stop the bleeding here, and Lucas Van Ness goes to the Seattle Seahawks. And now that we're going past the Dolphins pick, since they decided to mess with Tom Brady and Sean Payton coming to the team, they're not going to be able to get a top tight end in the draft. And the Chargers are now on the clock, and they have Keenan Allen, they have Mike Williams, but I think they need a speed threat. As much as the Austin Eckler situation is going on right now with the contract dispute, I can't see Zay Flowers going anywhere else but the Chargers with how speedy he is. I think if you add him to already that double-headed monster in Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, one being great at route running, one being a go up and get it type of wide receiver, Zay Flowers can be the man that just finds that spot with his speed. And he's going to be going to Los Angeles, Baltimore. Rumored to get a lot of different players. Jordan Addison, Emmanuel Forbes is somebody else as well. I've even seen Hendon Hooker going to the Ravens. I wouldn't go that far because Hendon Hooker possibly goes late second round, but for sure a third round pick since he is on the older side. I think the Ravens add to their defense or continue to add to their defense. As much as Quentin Johnston is on the board and so is Jordan Addison. Yeah, it might be a little bit of a reach, but I think Emmanuel Forbes is going to be going to the Baltimore Ravens. They need cornerback. Edge is also a position of need. Wide receiver, I'm not sure they like Jordan Addison enough to get him. They just got Odell. I mean, it's a temporary solution, but I think they can develop Emmanuel Forbes. And now the Vikings are on the clock. And this is where I have Brian Brees going, or Brisset, if that's how you say it. Adding to a defensive line that can be very powerful. Brian Brees is a very big guy out of Clemson. I think he can be good on the Vikings. I definitely think he can be good on the Vikings. Yeah. Brian Brees going to Minnesota. Now the Jaguars are on the clock. Guard, center, edge, defensive back. Miles Murphy. Basically your Trayvon Walker type of guy. And they could put him on the opposite end of Trayvon Walker if they're playing them at the same time. Very powerful edge rusher. Yeah, I can't see anything else at the moment. Brian Branch is here, but I still wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't go that far. I think I would see Myles Murphy going to the Jacksonville Jaguars, adding to a defense that needs help in the cornerback position, but helps a lot in terms of the line that has been doing well already. Now the Giants, it's between wide receiver and safety. Brian Branch and Jordan Addison, both very good options for them. And as much as the Giants probably want to help Daniel Jones out now that they've extended him, I think they need safety. And I think Brian Branch will be going to the New York Giants. A very good safety that can help that defense a lot. Very high football IQ, but I think he'll be great for the Giants. Now the Cowboys are on the clock. I'm not necessarily a believer that they're going to be taking Bijan, only because they have Tony Pollard, yes, but it's a pretty good overall running back class, and spending a first-round pick on it is not something that I really expect them to do. Now, what would they do instead is the real question. Cornerback is a possibility. As much as I think that Bijan will probably go to the Bengals, for this position right now with the prospects that we have in this mock draft, I don't think they're going to be taking Will McDonald at the 26th pick. They don't necessarily need edge. They need linebacker. And the next best linebacker is Jake Campbell, who could be pretty good, but it's somebody that you could get in the next round. I mean, cornerback's also a possibility, but we're really drafting for value here. Possibly an Eagles or Bengals moving up above the Cowboys just to be safe to get Bijan. But I think Bijan goes to the Cowboys in this mock draft for right now. The Bills are now on the clock, needing linebacker, cornerback, or defensive interior as well. This is really the one that I think that the Bills are going to take a chance on Mazi Smith. He was a pretty solid defensive tackle. He's a pretty solid defensive tackle. Just needs to improve his hands, but just that defense that the Bills have right now, especially the defensive line with Von Miller, I think he can develop very well with the Bills. And that's just what I'm going to go with right now. Mazi Smith going to the Buffalo Bills. And the Bengals are now on the clock, needing tight end, defensive interior, and defensive back. And Dalton Kincaid is still here, and that's where I think they're going to go. Unless Bijan falls to this position, I think they would probably take Bijan because of the whole Joe Mixon situation that's going on. This is where I think Will McDonald will be taken. A very explosive edge rusher. I think he just needs to improve his play strength, but I think he'll be just fine on the Saints. And now the Eagles are on the clock, needing wide receiver, supposedly. Guard center, we got Peter Skoronski for them, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Peter Skoronski is on the team for them, so they also don't need Osiris Torrance either. I don't know why they would go with wide receiver at this position. It might be a reach for the Eagles right now, but I'm doing this as if they're not going to trade out of it. They're probably going to trade out of it and try to get a top second round pick. Felix is a pretty good edge. This is more of a future or looking to the future type of pick for the Eagles. I think he can develop very well in Philadelphia. I can't see Jordan Addison or Quentin Johnson going to the Eagles. Wide receiver does not seem like a position of need right now. But Felix is going to be going to the Eagles. Now the Chiefs have a choice between Jordan Addison and Quentin Johnston. Jordan Addison seems like a better route runner, but Quentin Johnson has a lot of upside. I think Quentin Johnston's a bit too much of a freak athlete to go outside of the first round. Possibly could have gone somewhere else within this whole first round that we did. Just didn't see any of those teams necessarily needing that type of player in terms of size. He has a dropping issue, but could even go to the Packers, which as I'm making this, I stopped for a second and I saw that Aaron Rodgers has been traded to the Packers. Now, if I don't already put it in the video, I still think Michael Maher is probably going to be going to the Packers anyways, and Broderick Jones is still going to be going to the Jets. Both still positions that they need. And yeah, to finish off the draft, we are going to get Quentin Johnston. A bit of a different draft, in my opinion, in terms of how it finished in the first round. It was kind of just how everything fell at that point. Cornerback is probably something that the Bills will end up taking. It's just a very unpredictable draft at the moment. It even might change from today to tomorrow in terms of my mock draft, and if I include more trades in the mock draft. But I'm pretty solid with how it went right now. Maybe the top 25 is what I'm most confident in. When it gets after that is when I'm a bit hesitant on how that's going to go. But I do like it. And if you did enjoy that, go down there, like and subscribe for me. Let me know what you think about this mock draft. I'll talk to y'all down in the comments if you have any opinions about it. And I'll explain my side of it if you didn't like a certain pick that I made. But I'm pretty confident with this. Maybe it even changes from today to tomorrow, because this whole draft week is just going to be hopefully draft videos going up. So with that being said, I hope you did enjoy, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.